Section 4.6, Adding and Subtracting Mixed Fractions. In this video we will see how to add and subtract mixed fractions with the mixed fraction approach, and how to add and subtract mixed fractions in vertical format. Adding mixed fractions. We can use tools we've already developed to add two or more mixed fractions. Example 1. Simplify 2 7/8 plus 1 3/4. Solution. Change the mixed fractions to improper fractions, making equivalent fractions with a common denominator, then add. To change 2 7/8 to an improper fraction, 2 times 8 is 16 plus 7 is 23, so the improper fraction is 23 over 8. Changing 1 3/4 to an improper fraction, 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3 is 7. Putting this over the original denominator, we get 7 over 4. Now we have two fractions. We want to find an LCD. The LCD in this case for 8 and 4 is 8, since 4 is a factor of 8. So we'll multiply the second fraction by 2 over 2 to get an equivalent fraction with the denominator 8. Now that we have two fractions with a common denominator, we can just add the numerators, 23 and 14, to get 37 over 8. Although this answer is perfectly acceptable, let's change the answer to a mixed fraction. 37 divided by 8 is 4, with a remainder of 5. Thus, 2 7/8 plus 1 3/4 equals 4 5/8. Example 2. Simplify 3 1/4 plus 2 1/3. Solution. Change the mixed fractions to improper fractions, make equivalent fractions with a common denominator, then add. 3 1/4 equals 13 over 4, and 2 1/3 equals 7 over 3. The LCD of 4 and 3 is 12. To get equivalent fractions with the denominator of 12, multiply the first fraction by 3 over 3 to get 39 over 12, and the second fraction by 4 over 4 to get 28 over 12. Then add the denominators, 39 and 28 equals 67 over 12. Although the answer is perfectly acceptable, let's change the answer to a mixed fraction. 67 divided by 12 is 5, with a remainder of 7. Thus, 3 1/4 plus 2 1/3 equals 5 7/12. Mixed fraction approach. There's another possible approach, based on the fact that a mixed fraction is a sum. Let's revisit example 2. Example 3. Simplify 3 1/4 plus 2 1/3. Solution. Use the commutative and associative properties to change the order of addition, make equivalent fractions with a common denominator, then add. 3 1/4 is equivalent to 3 plus 1/4, and 2 1/3 is equivalent to 2 plus 1/3. Then regroup, putting the whole number parts together, 3 and 2, and the fractions together. Then 3 plus 2 is 5, and changing 1 over 4 and 1/3 to equivalent fractions with the denominator of 12, because the least common denominator is 12, we get 3 over 12 and 4 over 12. 3 over 12 plus 4 over 12 equals 7 over 12. Then 5 plus 7 over 12 is just 5 7/12. Note that this solution is identical to the result found in example 2. Example 3 leads us to the following result. Adding mixed fractions. To add two mixed fractions, add the whole number parts, then add the fractional parts. Working in vertical format. When adding mixed fractions, many prefer to work in a vertical format. For example, here's how we would arrange the solution from example 2 and example 3 in vertical format. We create equivalent fractions, then add the whole number parts and fractional parts. 1/4 is equal to 3 over 12, and 1/3 is equal to 4 over 12. Then 2 plus 3 is 5, and 3 plus 4 over 12 is 7 over 12. Note the answer is identical to the answer found in example 2 and example 3. That is, 3 1/4 plus 2 1/3 equals 5 7/12. Example 4. Sarah is making window curtains for 2 rooms in her house. The kitchen will require 5 2/3 yards of material, and the dining room will require 6 5/8 yards of material. How much total material is required? Solution. To find the total material required for the 2 rooms, we must add 5 2/3 and 6 5/8. Create equivalent fractions with a common denominator, then add whole number parts and fractional parts. The common denominator is 24. We'll multiply 2/3 by 8 over 8 to get equivalent fraction 16 over 24, and 5/8 by 3 over 3 to get equivalent fraction 15 over 24. Then 5 plus 6 is 11, and 16 plus 15 is 31 over 24. An answer that is part mixed fraction, part improper fraction. This is not allowed. To finish, we need to change the improper fractional part to a mixed fraction, then add. 31 divided by 24 is 1, with a remainder of 7. That is, 31 over 24 equals 1 7/24. Now we can add whole number parts and fractional parts. 11 and 31 over 24 equals 11 plus 1 7/24 equals 12 7/24. Thus the total material required is 12 7/24 yards. Subtracting mixed fractions. Let's look at some examples that subtract two mixed fractions. Example 5. Simplify 4 and 5/8 minus 2 and 1/16. Solution. Change the mixed fractions to improper fractions. Make equivalent fractions with a common denominator, then subtract. 4 and 5/8 is equivalent to the improper fraction 37/8. 2 and 1/16 is equivalent to the improper fraction 33/16. Then 37/8 is equivalent to 74/16. Then 74 minus 33 in the numerator is 41, so we get 41/16. Although this answer is perfectly acceptable, let's change the answer to a mixed fraction. 41 divided by 16 is 2, with a remainder of 9. Thus 4 5/8 minus 2 and 1/16 equals 2 and 9/16. Example 6. Simplify 5 and 3/4 minus 2 and 1/3. Solution. Change the mixed fractions to improper fractions, make equivalent fractions with a common denominator, then subtract. So 5 and 3/4 minus 2 and 1/3 becomes 23/4 minus 7/3. Then multiplying the first fraction by 3/3, we get an equivalent fraction of 69/12. Multiplying the second fraction by 4/4, we get an equivalent fraction of 28/12. Then subtract the numerator, 69 minus 28, to get 41/12. Although this answer is perfectly acceptable, let's change the answer to a mixed fraction. 41 divided by 12 is 3, with a remainder of 5. Thus 5 and 3/4 minus 2 and 1/3 equals 3 and 5/12. Mixed fraction approach. There's another possible approach based on the fact that a mixed fraction is a sum. Let's revisit example 6. Example 7. Simplify 5 and 3/4 minus 2 and 1/3. Solution. A mixed fraction is a sum. 5 and 3/4 minus 2 and 1/3 is equivalent to 5 plus 3/4 minus 2 plus 1/3. Distribute the negative sign to get 5 plus 3/4 minus 2 minus 1/3. We could change the subtraction to adding the opposite, change the order of addition, and then change the adding of opposites back to subtraction. However, it is much easier if we look at this last line as a request to add 4 numbers, 2 of which are positive and 2 of which are negative. Changing the order does not affect the answer. So change it to 5 plus 3/4 minus 2 minus 1/3 to 5 minus 2 plus 3/4 minus 1/3. Note that we did not change the signs of any of the 4 numbers, we just changed the order, subtract the whole number parts, make equivalent fractions with a common denominator, and subtract the fractional parts. So 5 minus 2 is just 3. The common denominator of 3 and 4 is 12, so we'll multiply the first fraction by 3/3 to get 9/12, and the second fraction by 4/4 to get 4/12. Now that we have common denominators, we can just subtract our numerators. 9 minus 4 is 5 to get 5/12. Thus, 5 and 3/4 minus 2 and 1/3 equals 3 and 5/12. Note that this is exactly the same answer as that found in example 6. In example 6, we see that we handle subtraction of mixed fractions in exactly the same manner that we handle addition of mixed fractions. Subtracting mixed fractions. To subtract 2 mixed fractions, subtract their whole number parts and subtract their fractional parts, working in vertical format. When subtracting mixed fractions, many prefer to work in a vertical format. For example, here's how we would arrange the solution from example 6 and example 7 in vertical format. We create equivalent fractions and subtract the whole number parts and fractional parts. So, remember, the LCD of 3 and 4 was 12, so we multiply the first fraction by 3/3 to get equivalent fraction 9/12, and the second fraction by 4/4 to get equivalent fraction of 4/12. Then 5 minus 2 is 3, and 9 minus 4 gives us 5/12. Note that the answer is identical to the answer found in example 6 and example 7, that is 5 and 3/4 minus 2 and 1/3 equals 3 and 5/12. Borrowing in vertical format. Consider the following example. Example 8. Simplify 8 and 1/4 minus 5 and 5/6. Solution. Create equivalent fractions with a common denominator. The common denominator for 4 and 6 is 12, so if we multiply the first fraction, 1/4, by 3/3, we get equivalent fraction 3/12, and then if we multiply the second fraction by 2/2, we get an equivalent fraction of 10/12. You can see the difficulty. On the far right, we cannot subtract 10/12 from 3/12. The fix is to borrow 1 from 8 in the form of 12/12 and add it to 3/12. This is because 1 is equivalent to 12/12. So, if we borrow 1 from 8, we get 7 plus 12/12. Then 12/12 plus 3/12 is 15/12. So now we have 7 and 15/12 minus 5 and 10/12. 7 minus 5 is 2. Then 15 minus 10 gives us 5/12. Thus, 8 and 1/4 minus 5 and 5/6 equals 2 and 5/12. Example 9. Jim has a metal rod of length 10 inches. He cuts a length from the metal rod measuring 2 7/8 inches. What is the length of the remaining piece? Solution. To find the length of the remaining piece, we must subtract 2 7/8 from 10. There is no fractional part on the first number. To remedy this absence, we borrow 1 from 10 in the form of 8/8. Then we can subtract. So we change 10 to 9 plus 8/8, or 9 8/8. And since we have denominators that are both 8, we can go ahead and just subtract. 9 minus 2 is 7, and 8 minus 7 gives us 1/8. Hence, the length of the remaining piece of the metal rod is 7 1/8 inches.